Joining me now is public affairs analyst Lester Wilcox. He's here in Lagos. Lester, thank you for joining me this morning. And I just wanted to get your thoughts, on what's, this war that's entering its third month, and then, the calls for countries to stand by Ukraine, the calls for the International Criminal Court to do something, calls for no one to be a bystander in this war.
Well, Amarachi, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be with you again. I think maybe Putin have had some miscalculation about the objective of the war, and from the day the invasion was launched, it looks as if it was just going to be a walkover, a walk in the park for Russia, having maybe assessed the military capability of Ukraine and thinking that it's something that could just be getting over within a matter of days or at most weeks. But the reality is now dawned on the fact that the Ukrainians are resilient in defending their country, and they are doing all that at whatever cost to their own security and lives. And again, rallying Europe for support and all whatnot. And again, seriously, like you just aired the British Prime Minister's statement, position on the issue. Europe, or in fact, most part of the world, Europe in particular, cannot sit by and watch Russia succeed in Ukraine, because that would be a bigger threat to the security of Europe as a whole. Because if Russia succeeds in Ukraine, bringing down Ukraine and maybe occupying Ukraine, then the tendency for it to start annexing the other smaller countries around it, then Poland is at risk and other countries within Iran. So it's not going to be a walk in the park as Russia has intended. And that is why after trying to take over Kiev and it was unsuccessful, they changed strategy to now concentrate on the eastern part. And that's why Mariupol is becoming very, very much a place, a theater zone, so that at least Russia will see that they got some victory even before any form of negotiations can be done. But I think the Russians are finding it extremely difficult to achieve their military objective, no matter how they have done. And the West, again, is not relenting in their effort to Ukraine, because Ukraine is like a test case as to what Russia can do to all other Europe. Ukraine is a big country in Europe. Imagine the smaller countries within around it. What will happen? So the only weapon Russia has or Putin has is that economic weapon, and it only ends with energy supplies. And that's the Russia, I think, might make other countries not to really be hard on them. But security comes before whatever welfare that they're talking about. So they will all defend, put their hands on, and nobody will stand aloof. At this point, nobody is standing aloof, even though the threat of economic issues are still in their face. But they cannot stand aloof because their security is at stake.
Yeah, and speaking of security, that really is at stake, isn't it? This is the second time Russia is warning the Western countries. At the beginning of this war, it warned countries about their interference and said they would also bear Russia's wrath. And again, he's sounding that warning to those countries that are helping Ukraine at this point. We're talking about the war being fought by proxy by these Western countries. When do you think it's time, to really move in on Russia? Because the way things are going, Ukraine, as we know it, is probably going to be over by the time Russia's done.
Well, Putin's warning has gone too many. It's part of statesmanship or part of grandstanding to warn and to warn. And from origin, he had, first and foremost, he lied to everybody that he wasn't going to invade Ukraine. And so, but of course, the intelligence services of Britain and America and other places were giving the right information to the fact that Putin is, as a matter of fact, the dates and the timelines were all being so they had quite a substantial information about Russia's activity and Russia's movement around before this whole war started. So the West is not lying low, and there's a wider cooperation within the Ukrainian Secret Service, the American and the British. The British has been very, very vocal, quite unlike Britain. They've been very, very vocal on this issue in terms of their intelligence services and gathering of intelligence with respect. So the warnings for me is part of showing grandstand and statesmanship. Well, it has come too many. The West cannot put a boot on the ground against Russia. It's not possible for now. That's why I say it's a proxy war. because these are superpowers and with nuclear capabilities. So anything that will eliminate the resorting to nuclear war will be limited by will be avoided by everybody, and that is also why Russia is also doing what they are doing, because he knows he might want to drag in the West and then escalate the war to become a third world war. And of course, when that happens, nuclear arsenal will be deployed, and the West will not want that. Russia wouldn't care because it's not accountable in all respect, not democratically accountable. I saw the president of Russia, that's Putin, speaking to his parliament. I wonder the kind of power that parliament has. Russia is run like a one-man state. No matter the size and no matter the military credentials they claim, Israel is run like a one-man. So I wonder the kind of power that the parliament he was addressing has. So the West will not want to confront Russia directly. That's why you see series of aid, series of military assistance is pouring in. And so it's a war that is being fought by the West through Proxy. And right now, like the other correspondent says, there's a lot of secrecy as to the equipment that are coming in and their usages. So the West is not going to lay back. So Russia warning or no warning, it's like sometimes it could be taken as a grandstanding, because right now he's finding it difficult. I'm not a military expert, but from my own observation, I think he's finding it difficult to achieve his military objective, and that is why he's now shifting the goalposts. And he's thinking that his hold on Europe for gas and energy supply will make those countries not to be too aggressive against him. But see, like I said earlier, security outweighs every other country, because it's only when you are secured that you can talk of economic prosperity. And right now, he might be grandstanding, but the sanctions are hitting hard. Whatever Russia wants to do in terms of his threats, does he want to declare nuclear? Others have it. So what else does he want to do? Does he want to go full blast and level Ukraine? Of course, that becomes a war crime. You discover that every other person's now, the International Criminal Court is talking about it. So he has limited options. And those options he has right now are the ones that he's given a lifeline from other agencies like the UN and other people that are trying to pacify him. So he has those lifelines to explore, because right now he's almost fighting against the entire world that has as much capability as it has, but because they are more democratic and they are more accountable to the people, they are also being more diplomatic in coming out full-fledged to confront Russia.
Yeah, and the Russian president is trying to appear a bit more humanitarian. You know, when he spoke with the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres yesterday about providing a humanitarian corridor in Mariupol, he said, yes, he does want one. He will even help to facilitate that. But, you know, the details, the fine lines still have to be ironed out. Mr. Antonio Guterres will be meeting the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky today. And, you know, we're just looking at, you know, what the gains of those visits probably are at the end of the day. Diplomatic efforts were made before this invasion on February 24, but nearly 3 months on, we're in the third month now. Do you think diplomatic efforts are still effective in this war?
Well, every war situation must always end up on the table, even if there is a victory on the ground. You still need to come to the table to negotiate. We've seen it happen all over the world. Even where one is a victor, there still need to be negotiations. So the place of diplomacy cannot be outstretched or overruled, no matter the circumstances. Even if today, which is unlikely, and God forbid, that Russia is able to subdue Ukraine and occupy, there'll still be diplomatic discussions in order to get certain things done and certain things restored back to normalcy. So the end of diplomacy cannot be, can never be in sight. There will still be diplomacy. Yes, Russia, it's a strong country. Putin is a proud man, and he also wants to show the fact that he doesn't take instruction from the West, and so he can go about to do what he wants to do, just as every other Western countries can do also certain things in areas, even with or without authorization from the UN or other places. So that is where Putin find himself. But Putin also knows that the fact that he has limited friendship, he has limited accomplices in whatever thing he's doing. Right now, apart from China that is standing aloof, and maybe India that has not come full. I'm talking about Western power. I'm talking about powers now. I don't think there's any other power that is in friendly town with Russia. He has talked about diplomatic humanitarian corridor before, and it didn't come to pass. And so it will be difficult to believe. I mean, he talked that he wasn't going to invade Ukraine, but that came to pass. So it will be difficult for most people to believe what Putin will be telling them with respect to his plans. And just like your correspondent said again, the man that can say the final word is Putin, not even his officials. And that was why I was talking about the parliament he was addressing, what power they have and what authority they have to checkmate or to at least legislate on what happens in Russia.
Right.
So it's only Putin that can tell you what he wants to do or not. So diplomacy will keep working. And all we are praying is that he will match his word with action, because right now, the world is going to a place where he's finding himself more isolated. Yes, he has economic edge with gas to Europe and to some other thing, but militarily there's equally a match in the Western power of NATO and all that. And so what else does he have that other than to embrace diplomacy and have the lifeline that the United Nations in general is offering right now? And so that by the time the man goes to Kiev and they have discussion with Zelensky and others, then there will be something amicable working out, so that there will be humanitarian corridors opened up in those areas, especially Mariupol and some other places, so that this war can sensibly be brought to an end, and then let's start the rebuilding processes.
Lester, thank you so much, for speaking with us this morning and your analysis on the issue. Appreciate your joining us on the program.
Amarachi, thank you very much. It's always my pleasure. I'm always available for any national service. Thank you.